lake today in Virginia, and we'll pretty much immediately pre-spawn for these big largemouth. We're going to target them using some wake baits, spinner baits for sure in the brushier areas. Get some big jigs. Looking forward to this. It may be, you know, it might not be too early for some topwater as well. So I got a hollow-bodied frog. We'll see what they're after today. Not too bad right now. Sun's coming up, and there's no wind. But later today we have a sustained wind to 25 mile per hour and gusts to 40. So that's going to be an interesting adverse condition to deal with. Little guy, little buck bass on the Copper's live target bluegill wake bait, and it was actually on the paws. Pulled it out from a real brushy looking area and let it float to the top, let it sit there probably 5 seconds, and first of the day. All right, let's get a bigger one now. So I've worked an entire bay that we know from being here last year was really productive immediately before and immediately after the spawn, and really haven't gotten anything going on the wake bait other than that first one, buck bass. So I think what we're going to do is move further out to maybe some deeper water, because I mean last night we had a pretty big set of storms come through. It was warmer yesterday. Right now I'm back in my jacket, like what I was wearing back in mid-March. It's cooled down quite a bit, even though we're approaching the end of April. I think those colder temperatures are going to put the bass, take them back out towards some deeper water, or maybe even tight to some wood cover. Alright, had one follow it on the swim, and I just missed him, and I decided let me just start swimming these jigs that I was using on the bottom, just you know, just off the bottom, bringing them back out from shore. Location wise, I'm just a little bit out from that big spawning flat. Hey Brent, bring your chatterbait in here and swim it near the bottom. The jig I'm using is a brush jig I made with a do-it mold. I think this one is a 5/8 ounce, and I got a little rattle in there, got a nice big skirt, and I got the trailer that we make for Confidence Baits. It's the Battle Stance Craw, but I don't think it resembles a crayfish when you're just swimming them real slow through, you know, just through all these logs and the brush that we can see here. I think they think it's a bluegill. It's certainly a big bulbous bluegill profile in the water. It's important to, as you're reeling it in, to really watch your line, just to see it'll be straight out this way, and then it'll kick out to the side, and that's when you got to set the hook. Another one swimming the jig. Bigger. Well, I did switch to the spinnerbait. I'm fishing a windy bank. It's a little bit more of a chaotic environment. I think it called for a little bit more flash, something a little more obvious. So you're taking into account a lot of things with when you're choosing a bait to swim back to the boat, a skirted bait, I'll say. Whereas the most subdued is swimming a jig. Most over the top, at least for me today, is that snagged on wood. The most subdued for me today is swimming that jig. Somewhere in between, Brent's over there. He's catching them on chatterbaits. That's a bait that is kind of halfway between a spinnerbait and a jig.
Picked up this 17 on a chatterbait with a Paddler Z trailer swim bait on it. He had some structure, pretty tight to the shore. He was off a log. Nice little fish, pretty fat, looks healthy. White, it's been my color today. I always have a good success in clear water with white, especially in the spring.
I'd like to talk a little bit about boat positioning with this wind. Now this is probably not the ideal bank to fish, but I just got a nice fish on the spinnerbait, so I'm going to continue to work this bank that really has the wind blasting right into it. Again, not ideal for spawning habitat, but they're not all spawning at the same time, and there are certainly fish that sit out the spawn each year, and maybe that was one of the ones I got. So I'm working along from spot to spot to spot, and the wind's coming at me this way, and I'll show you here with this. I'll take some video right here. I have an anchor release here, and I'm just letting go of the anchor. It's coming off my bow right there, and we'll go ahead and tighten that up. And then you can see I'm a certain distance out from shore. I will continue to work. I'll fan cast here, 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 and then I'll move down a little further, pick up the anchor, move down. That way I'm really methodically breaking up that bank chunks at a time, and there isn't any one part of this bank that I'm not touching with either the spinnerbait or the swimming jig. Really allows me to methodically cover, immediately on the bank, out about 15-20 feet, and then some deeper water. Most of the fish have come in that 15 to 20 feet off the shore range, which is really where the bank is, it's going down, and as it's starting to stop descending, flatten out. So they're in that little transition from descent to flattened out. All right, back on the swim jig. Hi. It's absolutely critical to watch your line with these. Almost ready to pull this jig out of the water. I jammed him good, and I actually just see it tick a little bit to the left. Deviate from that, straight in retrieve that I had. Yeah, I gotta get the pliers on this guy. Oh, sorry. That's not bad. Alright. Another little guy. Now, I think what I want to do at this point is take this craw trailer off, dig around in my box behind me, get a big old swim bait trailer, just something that's going to give them a much bigger profile, maybe a bluegill profile. We'll see. So I'm giving both equal time to the spinnerbait and the swim jig. Tell me, what's the difference between these two? This one has blades that clack together and it's really obnoxious and overt, and this one's a real subtle presentation. I was on a fairly turbid, muddy reservoir 2 weeks back, did real well with this one, with the real obvious one. Today we're on a very clear reservoir, and this swim bait is certainly outperforming, I think, on a magnitude of 5 to 1. So I may go ahead and put away the spinnerbait for now, unless I find some real muddy water, which may happen with this wind blasting in on shore. But for now, I'm going to keep hammering them with the swim jig, which is really just a brush jig that I'm swimming. I like the brush jig because it's got the bristle weed guard, and as you're bringing it in, you'll hit a lot of logs. You don't know they're a log at first. It could be a bass that just jammed it, and he's just sitting there holding it in his mouth. So as you're bringing it in, you'll feel something. You want to reel it in with your rod tip up just a little bit. One, so you can really get a good look at that line and what that's doing. and two, that when your rod tips up, when you do feel one take it, or if it bumps into a log, you can just stop or slow down and just watch the line to see which way it goes. And you're actually going to drop your rod tip, not to put slack in the line, don't put any slack in the line, but it just gives them a little bit of line so that so they're not going to feel you. So fish it with your rod tip up just a little bit, watch that line, and give them just a little bit to make sure it's not a log, that it's a fish. Then cross them, cross their eyes. Swim jig, getting it done. Move to a shallower, more protected bank. Yeah, find some bigger fish, bigger pre-spawn. All right, I'm here with Brent, and he's been catching them on with a very similar presentation, just swimming it back to the boat. How far off the shore?
Not even 10 feet.
Yeah.
Maybe closer on some of them. 2 feet of water.
Yeah.
Most of them I've hit in 2 to 3 feet of water.
Anywhere near the bottom or just middle of the water column?
Kind of just, when I'm in that shallow, I'm just kind of buzzing it right below the surface to keep it out of the grass.
And he's using the chatterbait, which is another nice way to do the same kind of swim jig presentation. The advantage of this, though, is you feel that blade going as it comes across. You can feel that constant shaking. And when you feel that, you know that, it's not in the fish's mouth yet. When that's interrupted, bam, that's when you got to set the hook. So, very similar presentation. Windblown bank, spinnerbait. Protected bank, swim jig. Show me what you got, man.
20.5 largemouth on a chatterbait with a swim bait trailer. Hit it right at the boat, about 2 feet, as I was pulling him out of the water. Came up and slammed it from underneath. Just picked up this 20.5 largemouth. Presentation today seems to be swim baits, moving stuff. Spinnerbaits have been active. Chatterbaits with a swim bait trailer. Haven't gotten a whole lot on finesse presentations, just a few, but they're chasing them. The water temp's around 60, and it's the biggest fish of the day for me.